We're live, Mr. Wade. Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 177 for Monday, 5th of August, 2024. My name is Leonard Brackett, and I'll be your temporary chairman to host the program until the chairman is available. And in the meantime, I have also our next panelist on the show, our senior panelist, again, Mr. Roody Wade, who is here with us. I'll ask him to introduce himself and then grace us uh, with a. No, I'll do the prayer and then he will do the reading after I finish the prayer. Mr. Wade, do you want to introduce yourself, sir, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Leonard. It's always a pleasure
Same here,
to
sir.
be with you, sit in your company, my brother, and hope that our show may be beneficial to our viewers and listeners. And tonight, we always try to have a very good show in terms of speaking out on issues, and we are about people and nation.
Yes, sir.
Back to you, Mr.
Just
Mr.
one
Chairman.
more second. You want to make one more comment? Since I was in the middle of launching the stuff,
Yes, yes.
just one more comment there to the public,
Yes,
if you don't mind.
there's a lot going on in our beautiful jewel. And again, I want to through this medium, again, I want to welcome our viewers and listeners to our 177 edition of our Belizean Affairs show. My people, please, I've always been trying to put through to you, that COVID is still here, never did go away. Please protect yourself, because COVID is still here, so no put no guard down, right? Keep them up.
So,
And lastly, don't forget that we are we are still in the hurricane season, right?
yes,
So
sir.
be very mindful. There's something brewing up again, so be very mindful. Okay, take care.
And keep praying.
Keep praying.
I'll do the prayer for tonight's meeting, sir, if you don't mind. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade, for your introduction. Um, I'll just bow my head and do a short prayer. Divine loving Father, as we come before thy presence once more, we humbly pray that thou must continue to accept our expression of gratitude and thankfulness to thee for having given us life in the first instance, and secondly, for granting us the privilege to still be alive today among our family members, friends, and loved ones, and to be able to participate on this program tonight. Please give us wisdom, knowledge, understanding, endurance, perseverance, protection, the fortitude that is required for us to be able to sustain the veracity of what is it that we are trying to communicate to our people, and for whatever we communicate to our people, be to the thy honor and glory, as well as to the well-being of our country, Belize, its people, and its leadership. Please continue to abide with us. Please bless this country also of the United States of America, its people and leadership. Please bless the rest of humanity, and especially those people who are in harm's way, suffering from hurricanes, tornadoes, and disasters, and man-made disasters of wars and all sort of negligence. Please give those people who have need of food and clothes and shelter some reprieve for their needs. Bless our program, we ask you again. We ask these mercies through Jesus' name. Amen. Back to you, Mr. Wade, for reading
Thank you,
tonight.
Leonard.
You're welcome, sir.
As always, we like we said, we start our program with a prayer and then a reading. I will continue, Mr. Chairman, from Matthew, chapter 24, with 35 to 45.
Yes, sir.
Says, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But concerning that day and hour,
No
no one
one knows.
knows, but even not even the angels of heaven,
Mhm.
nor the Son, but the Father only. For us were the days of Noah. so be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and
giving
giving
in marriage.
in marriage until the day when Noah entered the ark. And they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. So will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then two men will be in the field, one will be taken and one left. Two women will be grinding the mill, one will be taken and one left. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief it was coming, he would have stayed awake and should not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming, and
No one knows.
at the hour you do not expect.
Mhm.
Says, who then is the faithful and wise servant whom his master has set over his household to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is the servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will set them over all his possessions. But if the wicked servant says to himself, my master is delayed, and begin to beat his fellow servant, and eat and drink with drunkards, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he does not know, and will cut him in pieces and put him with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and
And
grinding of
gnashing of teeth.
teeth. That's my reading from Matthew chapter 24, 35 to 45. Sorry, 50.
Uh, Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Just pulling up something else here. In the meantime, the chairman is not available yet, so okay. Let me see. No, it doesn't want to come up. I was trying to pull up something just now, but it didn't want to come up there, so I gotta go find it somewhere else. Just a second. Okay, here we go. Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. Uh, we will start the program until the chairman shows up, and when the chairman shows up, then we'll turn over the show to him. But in the meantime, we're going to mark pace. So I have an improvised program that I'm going to initiate temporarily, and like as the chairman, temporary chairman, like I said, and I have an issue with the way our present government is conducting our affairs, that is, Belizean affairs. So it is likely that you'll hear us talk about Belizean affairs all the time, not only because it's the name of our platform and show, but they are the issue that we're interested in and that we need to be paying attention to and hopefully be able to get the best results out of, because that is the purpose of why we have a government in place. We elect individuals to represent us and to go on and have our powers of governance assented to them, and they should do right by us as a minimum, even if they don't want to do right by themselves, because the way these guys are operating is like they don't respect um, our constitution, they don't respect our process and procedures in the country, they don't apparently respect us or nobody else, much less themselves, you know. I see our chairman is somewhere in the background. I'm hoping that he will come in, so maybe I don't have to launch this thing right now. No? Mr.
Good
Chairman,
night, gentlemen.
Greg. Good night, sir. I was
Good
just
night, Greg. Good
getting
night,
ready to.
Mr. Chairman. Glad
I
to
was
have
getting
you.
ready to
Thank
supplement
you.
your timing until he was available. I knew he was in the background working on something else, no? But I didn't want to kill
Yes,
your
I
time.
was.
So I'll just defer and don't go into it because I didn't start it yet. So I'll just yield back to you and let
Whatever you
you.
started, bear in
Yeah.
mind that you will be right there. So keep it at hand.
No, but
I will need that.
it might be a different subject than what you was probably intending
It
to
will not be a
contribute tonight.
different subject.
Oh,
I
okay,
can
okay, okay.
guarantee you.
Okay, then,
Keep it
sir.
at
Thank you very
hand.
much. Thank you.
Firstly, let me say good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. And thank you for tuning into this 177th edition of Belizean Affair, where we have no holds barred. We are not blue, we are not red, or any color. We are here to educate and to hold our government accountable so that they can serve the Belizean people. Gentlemen, we just went over a holiday, Emancipation Day, and most people around the world have celebrated this day, and we know that day is especially for the black people who has got away from colonialism. Now I want to go straight to my first clip to hear the Deputy Prime Minister, what he had to say on Emancipation Day.
Let's leave behind a country better than the one we received. That's our great challenge. That's our call to arms. We failed thus far. Every time we call an SOE to order, we falter.
Gentlemen, you hear what the Deputy Prime Minister said. That was a part of his speech on Emancipation Day. But
Mr.
let
Chairman,
me be,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
before you
sir.
proceed, was that you speaking or was that somebody else speaking just now? I was in the middle of taking off and putting on my stuff, but it sounded to me like you was the one doing the talking because I've heard you say those very same things about the SOEs many a times on this show. But I saw a different face. But I was hearing like, you know, what you was always articulating. And to be honest, I'm saying I know the gentleman face that I saw, and like I said, I'm apologizing because I had taken off my earpiece so I will get to my glasses to clean my glasses. But what I was hearing was what you and this program have been advocating for a long time. So I didn't want you to just skip over that specific statement that the gentleman was making as regards to what we have been advocating here and saying. And I hope that that gentleman takes it to heart and takes his cabinet to heart to task and try to fight within the cabinet on behalf of the people that he represents. Because that's why they sent him to the House and that's why he was able to get into cabinet. Fight for his people. I'm not sure he's going to be successful, but I wish he continues the fight because the Belizean people need their representative to represent them. I'm sorry for interrupting and distracting your cogency, sir. I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Thank
for
you, Mr. Brackett, and well said. Mr. Brackett, I played that because I wanted the people at home and abroad to heard what the Deputy Prime Minister had to say. And what he's saying there is something that his government is continually doing, which is bastardization of our constitution.
hmm
And we here in Belizean affairs, I personally has called them out when I said on more than one occasion that no one should be held in servitude, which is a reflection of Emancipation Day. No one should be held in slavery. And under a state of emergency where there is no criminal charge passed down by a court, we can say that these young men are being held against their will in servitude. Mr. Wade, I go to you first, sir.
in violation of their
Thank you.
constitutional
Thank
rights.
you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thank you for highlighting and showing, like we always do on this show. We show and tell. Whatever we say does not come from our mouth, right? It comes from the mentality and the thinking of our elected leaders. That's why we call them out, because at some point they will say, well, I never said so, and these are just mischief making, and oh, how dare you, and this and that, right? When they are caught, no, whenever they are caught, it's so sad to see that, you know the level of what you call it, secrecy, the level of the way these guys hold themselves within their party, never want to speak out on the wrong that they do until when it becomes obvious, Mr. Chairman, right? Because that occasion that he spoke on another occasion when he says that we need a new identity, right? And I just hope that wasn't just something that a hot air that comes out of his mouth, right? That he pay more attention to what he just said.
hmm
And when he sit in front of his colleagues, he has the guts and the balls to call them out. I mean, what is wrong to speak truth? What is so wrong? Or what is so wrong to tell Johnny Briseño or Julius or any one of them, you know what? You shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't say that, or it's wrong, or it's right. There's nothing wrong in holding themselves in check. So, in my view, we are still in slavery. We are still. Um, you heard what he said, my people, about the bogus SOE that we on this show constantly, since they are doing it, constantly call them out, and we show them, especially the chairman, show them where it is wrong, unconstitutional to be putting your people through these kinds of unlawful acts that you do to them, right? So I just hope, Mr. Chairman, that his other minions, them that sits in cabinet, listen to what he said, and they stop doing things that they are not supposed to do. Like you always said, Mr. Chairman, and Leonard, and myself, do it right. Do the right thing. And he said, does it work? Is it working? he finally get some sense that since these SOEs, this state of emergency, for the same thing over and over, they inflicting pain and agony on the people of this country, on not of the country itself, only specific area. I just, I'm glad that he finally come to his senses that it's not right and it's not working. It's not working, Mr. Prime Minister. Are you that the leader, or you think it work? You know, listen to your deputy. That bogus SOE, state of emergencies, that you inflict on the people of this nation is not working and haven't been working. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Weir. Mr. Brackett, can you find section 8.1 of the Belize Constitution?
That's exactly what I was going to read, Mr. Chairman. Exactly what I was about to ask you to let me read. Let me go ahead then. Thank you for the privilege, sir.
Can you read that for me and then you go ahead?
Let me do it. That's what I'm about to do.
Thank you.
Protection from slavery and forced labor. That's the point that I think the gentleman was trying to get at when he came on the show and spoke to the issue of people in Belize having an Emancipation Day celebration. Emancipation from slavery. I'll read the Constitution of Belize, Cap 4, Part 2, Section 8, and Subsection 1, which reads as follows. No person shall be held in slavery or servitude. And subsection 2 reads, no person shall be required to perform forced labor. Subsection 3 reads, for the purpose of this section, the expression forced labor does not include, paragraph A, any labor required in consequence of the sentence or order of a court. None of those gentlemen have been taken to court.
Mr. Brackett, can you
Yes, sir.
repeat section 8.1? The most
Yes, sir.
important one that was mentioned for Emancipation Day. Go ahead.
No person shall be held in slavery or servitude. That's it.
Now, is the Deputy Prime Minister saying the state of emergency is unconstitutional? Let me hear from you, sir.
I don't think that's what he was really saying. Because as far as I could understand, when the Minister of Police and the Police Commissioner, they get the members of cabinet to help them issue bogus SOEs, not just a regular SOE that should be able to be issued correctly. They get cabinet to support them in issuing bogus SOE. And the good gentleman that we are talking about, Mr. Hyde, the Deputy Prime Minister, he's a member of cabinet, by the way. And it's not just because we are supposed to have been celebrating Emancipation Day that he becomes conscious of the reality that the black people in Southside Belize are being oppressed, suppressed, and marginalized. I would say that the gentleman should know that by virtue of him being one of us, and by virtue of the way and the reason and how he himself got elected by us, because it's Southside Belize a majority of black people, at least as far as I could still remember. Maybe it must change again too. But as far as his constituency, the Independence, was always majority black people too. So how come that just on one particular day he gonna advocate for his constituency in that regards? When we tell over and over, the people, the government, the chance with, and the need to stop take chance of the people in the South Side. We know we have a problem with killing and mayhem and gang-related issues or whatever, but I know just South Side Belize or just that one constituency where he resides in. And he, they allow for him people to get misused and brutalized by the police force of the country and the defense forces of the country while he is sitting in cabinet, and we not hear nothing out of him. I'm happy to know that finally, at least on this one instance, he's advocating that point of view or perspective. Because when them and them they try go for get their money from the government, first when they try to get it from Mr. Ashcroft, there was no support from the government for pressure Mr. Ashcroft to deal equitably or correctly with those black people on South Side, which was part of his constituency. Because some of them people who worked at the port belonged to his constituency too. So from way back then, he should have been saying what he's now saying. I'm glad that he's coming around to saying it. But the bottom line is that the SOEs are bogus. And the need to release those people that they're hauling in under SOE, first of all, that don't even belong to any gang who haven't committed any crime. Let's take, for example, Mr. Budna the other day. The man not belong to no gang. So how they treat them the way they're supposed to treat the people where they say belong to gang, and when they have some law, bogus law, when they make say that being a member of a gang is a crime, and they could sweep you off the street or go to your house and break down your door or take you out to your house and carry you to prison and all that kind of craziness because they think that you're a member of a gang. Even if they could prove that you're a member of a gang, that is not illegal by our constitution in our country. So what the hell are they doing other than just victimizing and acting like damn terrorists themselves in our country? While they have the real terrorists in our country declared, certified, and also acknowledged terrorists in our country, they walk around freer than the one Belizean people name. What the hell is that about? I yield back for right now, Mr. Chairman. I want to read. I don't want to monopolize your time, no, but I want to read a little bit more of the same thing
Thank
before I
you.
change from it. So
Thank
just
you,
wait till
Mr.
another turn.
Brackett.
You're welcome, sir.
We have gone down this road before, and we have
Many times.
discussed it. We have taken statutory instruments and we have torn them apart to let the people see the unconstitutionality of what the present government is doing. Mr. Wade, before I go to you, let's listen to this clip.
Society, when you go back to your office, you pull out section 20 of the Constitution that you can call a state of emergency where there is an earthquake, a hurricane, a flood, a war, some natural disaster that is putting all of us, maybe a section of the city, a section of the country, all of us are at risk because something of such major proportions has taken place. But
Mr. Wade?
Mr. Chairman, we have gone. You want to say something, Leonard? Your mic is off, Leonard.
Oh, it wasn't inside. Is it all right now? Are you hearing me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. It looked like I pulled the wire, and it came out.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment on Mr. Dickey quickly before you do your comment now. What Mr. Dickey was saying is 100% correct, which is the same thing that we have been saying here for so long and so many times over and over and over. Mr. Dickey was a former Attorney General under PUP. So the man know what he's talking about. They're not like they could say, well, we are not member of the bar, or we were not attorney generals, or we don't know what we're talking about, when in fact they know that we know what we're talking about. But again, I just want to big up Mr. Dickey for stepping to the plate and at least speaking up to the point. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Wade, for letting me interject, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, like I say previously, right? These guys, I try to see what is their end goal, or if they do have an end goal, right? Then we watch the repetitious cycle in terms of the state of emergency, we watch the areas that they call a state of emergency, the areas that are in, that have been affected.
Mr. Wade, we
We want to
kind of want to
welcome
say good night to Miss
to
Fitz.
Miss.
Good night.
Yes.
Good night.
Welcome, Miss Ford, Miss Fitz.
Good night, Miss Spirits. Thank you. Have a
Nice to
great
Yes.
rest
have
of
you,
Good
your
Miss
night.
day.
Fitz. Nice to
Good
have you.
night,
Nice,
everybody.
nice to
Yes.
be with you, and nice
Yes, sir.
for you to join us. We were the chairman had played something there from Mr. Bradley, no, in terms of the state of emergency, no, and I was just commenting, but this is something that I have said before, and is that, like I was saying, I wonder what is their end goal, right? You hear the deputy prime minister says that it's not working, um, and then you hear the landed man, Mr. Bradley, right? So, I mean, I think if more people would start talking about it, so maybe when they sit again to do another state of emergency, they have a change of heart, because they'll reflect, well, this one said, the next one said, the next one said, the next one said that it's not working. So we can't try that again. Right? So I just hope, because I look the way it's been going on every 3 months, they are passing state of emergency in this country and to certain area. And the the chairman already, and Leonard, we have, and then we have elaborated on how a state of emergency may be called,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not willy nilly, or because they see it like they want to do something, and then think whatever they do and cool off the little black boy then, like what they say, right? And cool off for a little while. No. So all I'm saying is that they need to rethink their strategy, because clearly it's not working, and the only one certain set of class are Belizean, they get affected by this constant state of bogus emergency that they are inflicting on this country. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Can I read
Again,
the part of section
good
20?
night, Miss Fitz, and welcome to this
Good night, all. I'm sorry. Sorry. Good
177th
night, all.
edition. Mr. Brackett, please
Yes,
proceed.
sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. I just wanted to read the part, a part of the section 20 that Mr. Dickey had referred to, right? Before we move on from him. I just wanted to contextualize what he was saying. Just give me a second here. Okay. Section 20 reads as follows. It says enforcement of protective provisions. That is to say, all the protective provisions that guarantees that the Constitution guarantees or liberties under. That is from Section 3 all the way through Section 19, inclusive. And this Section 20, which follows Section 19, is just making a reference to those particular provisions when it says enforcement of protective provisions. Section 21 reads as follows. Just one second, one more second. Okay, got it. If any person alleges, remember, nothing have to have happened before or yet, but they are just alleging, they are making a complaint. They are in fear of their constitutional rights being violated or have been violated or may be violated. Let me proceed. If any person alleges that any of the provisions of Section 3 through 19 inclusive of this Constitution has been, is being, or is likely to be contravened in relation to him, or in the case of a person who is detained, if any other person alleges such a contravention in relation to the detainee or detained person, then without prejudice to any other action with respect to the same matter which is lawfully available, that person or that other person may apply to the Supreme Court for redress. The problem we have with this section is it's very explicit, very plainly stated, but the application for that redress to the Supreme Court, not too many Belizeans have the ability to be able to come up with the money to hire a lawyer, and we don't have a free law service to the community to go battle against the government. And you shouldn't have to be fighting against your own government in the first place. It says that the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. That is to say, the legislator nor the executive of the country, that is to say, cabinet or any other government department, has any power or authority above that of the Constitution and or the authorized vanguard of the Constitution. The court, no minister, no police, no nobody has the authority to go beyond the Section 20 judicial review process. That is the purview of the court, the third branch of our government. I'll read it again. The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. And I recall in the past we have dealt with this, and I've heard Ms. Pitts made reference to it and gave a very succinct presentation. And before I finish, I would just like to ask that if she would be willing to give us some comments on that after I'm finished, when the chairman give her turn. No, if she can expand on this for us from a legal perspective. I just want to finish with it though. The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. Paragraph A says, to hear and determine any application made by any person in pursuance of subsection 1 of this section. And also, under paragraph B, to determine any question arising in the case of any person which is referred to in pursuance of subsection 3 of this section. And it goes on to stipulate quite a bit more information that I don't want to get into right now because I'll defer for further clarification, as I asked just now, if Ms. Pitts would be able to do that for us. So I'll just yield back to Mr. Chairman and let Mr. Chairman continue the process of the show.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome, sir.
We have been dedicated to the Constitution of Belize because we know what it is, we know what it stands for, we know what it protects, and when I listen to you speaking about what the Constitution is saying, because most people don't really read the Constitution or understand what it is saying, I think you have been too nice. So before I go to Ms. Pitts, I want to let someone discuss a little about that. That is not so nice as you, Mr. Brackett.
Unstoppable force meets immovable object.
To flip this beef the other side, because we also have a very hot topic to talk about, which is the 13-year-old that was detained under the SOE.
But now, really?
Yes.
Officially.
I think we have the release from the government on Friday, the very sheepish and sad release from the Ministry of Home Affairs. You know, I believe it's the commissioner who decides who's detained under the SOE, so this rests with him. I don't know that any body is organized to say these are the people we'll take in. So it's 87 people detained. No, it's not that release. That is from the attorney. So you can take that off, please. It's not that release. It's the one that's in the folder there. But my point is that it's the one from the Ministry of Home Affairs where they're saying that, you know, it's such a duplicitous press release. Because, you know, it says the Minister of Home Affairs in his wisdom went to Wagner's youth facility to meet with the young people. And when he met with the young people, when he met with the young people, it said it's 13-year-old. Like, it says in its second paragraph that the 13 and 15-year-old have been transferred to New Beginnings, I believe it is, formerly the youth hostel. It is the purview of the commissioner who is picked up. I am sure this 13-year-old young man is a challenging case. But this shows you how ineffective and how hopeless a state of emergency is as a law enforcement mechanism. We don't got nothing to put upon this child.
Yeah.
But we know it bad and we know it ain't this and we know that. So just make we lock up. But once you do that with a child, better lock up for life. Better you lock him up for the rest of his life. Because if you are telling a 13-year-old,
13.
no, I'm sure this is a difficult case. I'm not being fantastical. These kids are a challenge, but they never born bad. Circumstances make them what they are. But at 13-year-old, you have to say, well, we have to do something. A drastic intervention is needed. I am sure that is the case.
Yeah.
A drastic corrective intervention is needed. But you cannot say, this picnic so bad, we just lock you up and dash away the key.
Yeah.
It better you say that. Because if you're going to tell a 13-year-old, we put you under this SOE with 85 adults. But you so bad, we ain't come for you when you're 13. It is an embarrassment to the state. And regardless of what Francis Fonseca said, it is a violation of the rights of the child to subject a child to imprisonment under SOE when he cannot appear before a judge, when he has no recourse.
Yeah.
It is a failure on behalf of the state, and that is why an SOE is a demonstration of the incompetence of law enforcement. It is law enforcement saying, we can't do nothing else. We just know it's bad, so we ain't lock up. We know that Renata bad. I can't prove it. I can't send her before a judge because I don't have no proof.
That's all lock up on.
But I just ain't lock you up, and that's why
No explanation.
I understand. I don't have any fantasies about how difficult law enforcement is for police. I understand it is a high threshold to meet to determine criminal culpability for any offense.
Yes. Yeah.
But that is why the threshold is high, to protect innocent people or to protect innocents. When the state decides that we will use our SOE, if we lock up this bad blank picnic, it is a failure of law enforcement.
Yeah.
It is a failure of social intervention.
Yeah.
Again, I want to underscore, I do not think that it's an easy situation. But the minute you tell a 13-year-old, we'll lock you up with that 85 man because you so damn bad, better you keep him in jail forever.
Yeah.
Because you're sending him a signal that we have given up on you.
Yeah.
And then for the commissioner of police to project that this 90-day SOE detention will give him time to reflect. Hey, you are ascribing to a child the thought process of an adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
That when given time to reflect, you know how they put you in timeout? We just ain't put you in a 90-day timeout at Wagner's youth facility. We just ain't put you in a 90-day timeout where you have to come to remedial sessions at the central prison with 85 men,
Yeah.
adult men.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean, on a must could I do something else,
Just
brother?
if I can add a point
Please do.
In the dignity of this child, because you're using.
Sid, I go to you.
Well, it seems to me that the country of Belize, the media of Belize, the alphabet soup agencies of Belize within the NGO community, the citizenry of Belize, the departments and sub-departments with responsibility of the government of Belize, and everybody else act surprised. Well, guess what? Years and years and years ago. If you think this is bad, or people wanted to put a pretty bow on it, there was a matter of baby D. And when baby D was found to be locked up, a child barely walking, just born, I remember I went to have lunch with my parents, and my mother said, "Do you know a baby is in Belize Central Prison?" And I went into shock. And my father said, "Did you hear what your mother said?" And I used to be on a board of directors of certain organization. I used to have connectivity with certain others. And as a part of wider Belizean society, this to my mind was more than shocking. How could it go by? In short, I called several alphabet soup agencies trying to inquire because my mother was, "What are you going to do about it?" She doesn't normally ask me that. My never had asked me about a legal matter. And I was, everybody busy, they're not interested, hasn't come to their attention. And it was, well, you don't need them to be able to deal with that. And with the help of a couple people, we could not carry on our legal business the same way. We got upstairs of Radisson, had a press conference, and certain of the media showed up. I think their memory should still be good. I'll say it as quickly as I can. I was counseled by the elder attorney who I understood. Get the child out, focus on the child. I was, "What about the mother?" He said, "Get the child out." And I was, "Why not the mother?" Then later it was, "You cannot even allow a parent to be holding a child to ransom." Now, when we checked into it, it was that, and I checked officially, for privacy, we say baby D. I was the amicus curiae, a friend of the court, next friend of the child, so to speak, by way of taking out a legal action in Supreme Court. But we went through certain things which we felt were antecedent to that by way of urgency. Before noon, we had our press conference at Biltmore. As I was advised, there was a time, decades and decades before, when a lady whose name I will not mention, grown woman, was found guilty of a charge which was indictable, and she, pending that, expected a child. Back then in colonial era, it was that the courts allowed the lady expectant mother to go free into the care of a responsible elder in the community. I know the name of the person, very close to me. And it was until after the mother had the child, not as she had the child, not 6 weeks after, not while she's post. There's a word when you're just postnatal, post gestation or something. But when she felt okay and comfortable enough to leave the child, she was allowed to go and serve her sentence. Full stop. When we had that conference, a lady was there, not that lady, by a Muslim name and her husband. And providentially, she came and she said, "But that happened to me as well. I'm testament." Nobody called her, just the good Lord, by the grace of God. She was there when you do the right thing. Anyway, we checked with UNICEF, we checked with YWCA, and then I'm saying maybe not officially, but by way of contact, people in Belize small. I checked the court to inquire, as I was advised was the responsible thing. Why that mother, what she was sentenced for, the nature of it. And it was such that I think it was for a small amount of marijuana, maybe even for a man. And it was a fine, not an automatic imprisonment. She failed to pay the fine. It gets worse and worse. But while we were dealing with, it was meant the pink balls were getting larger, and of course we were being castigated. I was advised that certain of us should not offer to pay the fine because it would be as though we were acceding to the vulgarness of what had happened and the transgression. In short, the elders counseled me that what was happening in Belize, and anybody who is interested can look up the case, cradle to grave incarceration. The child was born innocent, all the obvious things, far below the age of responsibility, which is basically averages around 12 years or so. There's a Juvenile Offenders Act. There are laws in Belize and processes, judicial processes. Nobody, absolutely nobody, is to be kept in a prison extrajudiciously or judicially. The person is to be brought before the court.
That's what the Constitution
And
commands.
even if charged with a summary matter before the magistrate's court, actually, even indictable matters, the preliminary proceedings are before the magistrate's court. Worst, if you're innocent, born innocent, you can't commit one crime, cannot be accused of one. Then we have a process, a formal process. Even when hardback man, hardback woman get convicted of a crime, there is, after a magistrate's court sentencing, which is preceded by an allowance. Also, they look into your antecedents, to see whether any previous charge, any certain things, whether is there any reason the person undefended will be asked by the magistrate, any reason why I should not sentence you a certain way. And even where it seems that there's automatic imprisonment, not so. Hold on. When somebody is held, as we have been saying over and over, on an accusation and detained with respect to the constitutional protection against illegal detention, the protection for due process under rule of law, etc., etc., the person ought to be brought before a magistrate, and you all can recite the section. And colloquially now, out the people say, I never get my 48 or something. The point I'm making, I want to focus on in the matter of Baby D, because the writing was on the wall. You know that when a mother is found guilty, in the good old days, the magistrate would inquire before sentencing too as to the status, because traditionally and historically, the mothers are the nurturers and the caregivers, the home makers. What any children who would care for children, the social makeup. This was long, long, long ago, decades past, part and parcel. So what went wrong and wrong and wrong with Baby D? There was a crib, a corporate citizen apparently outfitted the nursery. The bowls were pink. There was some detained person serving a time rather. who was like a godmother to the child, and the mother was there. And it was a lot of media publicity, and it seems like people were to clap. And it was like, that is more than wrong. It's insidious. You know what happened? I think there was meeting of magistrates. There were certain inquiries. But when we had the press conference, the mother position and the baby may they get better. When you look, they were transferred over to a little house, and the house had washing machine and dryer. But it was not an official place where anybody was to be serving a sentence. The child,
You mean
oh, and then I was reminded to inquire, where was the warrant for imprisonment? By whose authority? Obviously, we knew, but you call into question that none could be given. The other thing is, certain people, the parole board started to hint that they would meet. But you know what? It was not just for them to condescend to meet. And you know, in Belize, you know and you respect people, but you have to be focused on what you're doing to protect the right of a child, a baby who could barely say, not me, I did not do anything, I was born innocent. Do you understand? This thing made grown men cry. Okay? I'll tell you something. I can't say much more. There was a certain time, there were meetings. And one of the men, Mr. Emerson Gill, was helping me. I said, by a certain time, we'll take out a case in the matter of Baby D. And we said that we will put it in myself as the person claimant before the court. It was in a matter of a habeas corpus, urgent. And I said to him, we would file it. Typographical errors and all, because I have some Belizeans, if you left out one T or left out one D, they were very spooky and politically correct about that. But I said, we'll get it in before the 12 o'clock news. And in this small Belize, the powers will be, because the busybodies and the people who have oversight will get it to them that a case has been filed. Guess what? By midday or 12:30, it was that the parole board would meet. And guess what? By a Wednesday, it was that the parole board met. And they had decided that out of their largesse, they would pay the mother's fine. You know, they did not understand, and no agency understood the wrong, so that the child could get released. And you think they're afraid to wait? By the latter part of the evening, they managed to put out a statement. If it was one, it was by the latter part, that those who seem interested should offer to pay a bit of the fine. But we were ahead of them. Then I can say, National Committee for Families and Children put out a release on its position. Speak is spooky. And there are those of us who can recite that part of the law backward and forward, but basically the principle, the paramount concern, they had met. And their press release was to the effect, the paramount interest of the child is the welfare interest, the paramount concern. And they came to a conclusion, I'm not saying verbatim, that the child should be with the mother. And guess what? They never got good sense or judgment, they say, outside the prison. But they fudged it and fixed it. So it was as though, and it was in effect, that the child should be with the mother wherever the mother is or was. Guess what? The parole board, or friends to the parole board, even ensure the mother got a job at a certain resort type restaurant. So we were saying the condition of the mother getting better and better. I will tell you what, it was a Wednesday because my uncle Smokey Joe Wade, properly, formally, Sullivan Benjamin Wade, had his show on Wednesday. And by the time we got there, 6 p.m., there was somebody outside. And the person was clamoring, a relative of the child. It was sad because you know what? The mother was released and the child with the mother, but there were certain things I will not get into, which they said still affected the child and they were frightened and worried. What I'm illustrating, the whole system let down the child. As a responsible attorney, because we are not supposed to um, make certain mischiefs and take affronts with the court system, in that the child, the mother was released. You see how by going for a habeas corpus, we got the result, right? But the message was loud and clear because what should have happened is that the Department of Human Services should have made a proper social inquiry report into that child. And for very simple and basic things, whether from a teacher or anybody in society, a care order can be issued by social department. When we say the supreme parent of a child, the parents patria, to say the Latin, is the state, the government of Belize. It's because constitutionally, morally, historically, we have the responsibility for the child and children. And the court is in locus parentis, in the position of the parent. And I have been before Supreme Court minding my own business on certain matters when a child who was about 14 was before the court, and I volunteered because we as attorneys know when the court is about to ask us to act as amicus curiae. And I put off and delayed my matter and put in 150%. Getting back to the matter of baby D, the child, we went on the show and I said words to the effect, because as an attorney, I know responsibility, legal and sensitivity, and to be careful. The only person I fear, the God. I said, it is as though the prison is taking a somewhat paternalistic interest in the child. Those of you who want to may consider what that might import. Selvin Benjamin Wade, Smokey Joe, he said how crooked would I say. And those who want to can look up the archives. With respect to baby D, I was advised back then, and this matter of the 13-year-old opened back the sensitivity of the womb, that the state of Belize should have and had the obligation, if it had to rent housing, a hotel, accommodations, whatever was safe, out of the public coffers for that child to be safe. House the child with caregivers. That was to take place. If you look into the Juvenile Offenders Act, it is right there. There's no mischief as to what should have happened. Let me finish quickly with baby D. We went on the show. Smokey Joe, it was who was saying over and over writing, and he writes in capital letters. If you see his original writing, he uses legal pad. And he used to finish, mothers, it is now 6 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Another relative of mine, Miss Merlene, well educated, in a fit, she wrote back, and she was entitled to Why don't you ask the fathers where their children are? But you see, we push this woman's thing too much, right? Smokey Joe was sensible and correct because if you knew him, you would know that he came out of that culture where Mother Hen collecting children 6 p.m. And Smokey Joe also used to warn. It used to grieve him. And without running for politics, he used to feed 300 children quietly at the park. But he used to say, no lady should be on the street collecting garbage, even if paid. That is what men do. Not just open car door, old school. Getting back to it though, saw Baby D, and people came to me, a young attorney who had mentored. Because people will come to you and find you and cuss you out behind your back. One of the alphabet soup agencies with international funding have 3 syllables in its acronym. A young man happened to bounce into us and said, you know what, it seems like some of them, after the fact, when they need to send the country office report, they find case studies. So under the waste, under time, and he was lamenting. A young attorney came to me at my office. Oh, are you aware that in England and Europe and certain countries, they have children in prison? They have the wing where they have children. I said, well, maybe Belize, which is called third world, we have a way that we do things that we can set an example. And on the International Welfare Index, with country reports, we would rank first place because historically, morally, legally, this is how we look after children. And then I said, by the way, it occurs to me that in those countries, they have hospital wing, they have counselings, they have institutions of state, they have provisions. Do you know that in Belize, sometimes to get a social inquiry report done, and the government has it, that counselors, sociologists, are amongst the most needy professions in Belize. No surprise. But to get a
Mr.
social inquiry report done, don't be surprised if it takes
Mr.
3
If I may,
months. The people are short staffed. And I'll tell you what, on the train, not so long ago, there was a mother whose baby.
Sharon, can we get a little chance? Mr. Chairman is trying to get
Mr.
your
If I
Sorry,
attention.
let me
may,
finish one thing because I
I
just
know,
want to finish and I have anything more to say because this is hard to speak on. You see, the baby who was released that way, not too long after, came to me a certain way that there was a meeting being held and we protect the names of children and something heinous happened to that child. And when I told my male friend, he cried. And I cried and I said, you know what? The institutions of state fail that child. One lady called from abroad. One person was calling. Oh, it's beautiful. Take a visit. I said, until you take any of your 3 children and have that child stay 1 or 2 overnights like that baby, don't speak to me and say it's all right. I'll yield all the time so they can pretend to be shocked. They can, and anything police dealing with that child, it's extra legal, extrajudicial, extra constitutional. And nobody has to guess. No government minister has to guess. No social department has to guess. No citizen, no media person has to guess. No attorney has to guess. Thank you, Belize. I have nothing further to say. Who want to pretend
thank
shock
you.
can pretend shock.
Thank you,
Thank
Miss.
you, Mr.
Thank you, Ms. Fitz.
And to follow up on what you said, Mr. I'm a strong believer of the Constitution of Belize. And I
Can I read a card?
foremost believes in Section 5(1) of the Constitution. I would like to say that even with NGOs and child welfare and services, I believe that the tone that our government is sending is one far beyond authoritarian rule. I'm saying this to say that the way they handle that child is like stating to the public, if your child is bad, we can come and pick any one of them up without they have been fined or charged in a court of law, and we can lock them up. It is a wrong insight to send to the Belizean people, and that is why I am so in love with trying to educate on the Constitution. I have a Chief Justice, the late Chief Justice Conte, who I have looked up to and studied some of the cases he has done. But none have come to pass to me as the Boeing case, in which he has specified that the fundamental rights of all individuals, Section 3219, that is covered by Section 20, is untouchable even by a super majority. And before I go to you guys, I'm saying this to let the people understand. So please keep your eyes open, as we have said here at Belizean Affair, with this PCC Act, because what they are after, as Judge Conte said, a supermajority cannot violate your fundamental rights due
Right
to
to
the
vote of
basic
existence.
structure doctrine. And this is why they are so eminent of trying to turn you, the Belizean citizens, into sovereign citizens to help them with their agenda. Let's hear the tape.
Mr. Chairman?
I think two of the biggest cases, not run of the mill at all, that he is responsible for is, of course, it was Dr. Conte as the Chief Justice who ruled that customary land tenure of the indigenous Maya merits constitutional protection. Landmark case. After that, many places I went throughout the region, they would inquire of the Chief Justice Conte because that decision had a ripple effect throughout, it echoed throughout the region. And that judgment has prevailed. And another case, less well known, would have been a case brought by the late Sir Barry Bowen relating to, I think it was land rights to oil under the ground and so on.
Under the soil.
And the question arose, that case, in that case, Chief Justice Conte introduced into Belize the basic structure doctrine in simple terms that says that even though we used to believe that a government with the appropriate majority can amend anything in the Constitution it wants, this theory, this principle said there are certain basic elements of the Constitution that even with the requisite majority can't be changed, such as fundamental rights and freedoms and independence of the judiciary. So that was another case that had profound impact.
But one has a sense that he was always right.
So,
Mr. Chairman?
people at home and abroad,
Excuse me, please forgive me. Forgive me.
I wanted to get
This,
the point across.
Mr. Brackett, Mr. Brackett, allow me to say this here. Allow me to say that with respect
We're mixing up. We're
the
mixing up different.
legal profession, condolences on late Chief Justice's passing. With respect to how this matter was introduced, though, right? Mr. Greg, I think you're zooming to basic trust doctrine, but you played back a part of an interview which seems to have to do with customary Mayan land rights. In my respectful view, as a citizen of Belize, and my first duty is to my country and people of Belize from whatever walk of life and under one patrimony and one Belizean identity. It, in my view, is that Belize was the experimental ground. And I do not find favor with the notion of ripple effect. And I do not find favor with it being a landmark celebrated case. I was at Tulane in New Orleans when it was mentioned by people not Belizean that they would be taking that case. The letter came from an attorney in the US to me. And I refuse because it's about Belizean patrimony and Belizean land and not balkanization. The agenda is foreign and a part of the
If I may,
destruction of Belize. And the Mayans understand where they get into. Because I want to finish. The other thing is, in my respectful view, the linking from the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council predicated this. I have my own respectful view, and I am of one thing I'll say clearly. I don't know if a proper defense or what defense was put forward by the people and country of Belize as a whole with respect to that matter. And I believe that a lot of resources, personnel, and money came from abroad. It was a foreign agenda. It's not of Belize, and it is not in the interest of the people and country of Belize. I will say no more. Those who have the answer here,
Sharon, it's a very valid point that you're bringing up. Very important, and we need to flesh it out more. We have dealt with it before, but we could always go back to it. But we need to focus on one point at a time. We cannot be all over the place.
I play the tape is not to play the part concerning land tenure. My claim of the tape.
Greg, before you continue with that part, please may I finish up what we were before, because we're not getting back to where we were before, and I had it stuff to read it here.
Go ahead.
Not, we're going further and further and further.
You could take my time, Leonard. Go ahead and go ahead. Because we run out of time. Take my time, man. Go ahead.
Yes.
I needed was to deal with the matter that we were on before. We're diverting.
I played the tape basically to let the basic structure doctrine came out from the boring tape. That was my agenda for playing that. Go ahead, Mr. Brackett.
Just a minute. I gotta try to get back the stuff. Where we were earlier, when I wanted was to be given the opportunity to add a commentary, and we were actually talking about the abuse of children by our governance system because of lack of proper policies of state which our constitution requires and mandates. And I wanted us to read the part of the preamble that spoke directly to that particular issue. So I'll just go ahead and read. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read the part that is germane to the point in question, or at the time when we were having the discussion. It says, under the preamble of Belize, paragraph D, paragraph B, as in boy, the last part of it says that equal protection should be given to children regardless of their social status, and that a just system should be ensured to provide for education and health on the basis of equality. That's how the preamble spoke to that particular issue about the rights of the children. And there are other areas that I could have quoted from the Constitution at large itself that specifically refers to the right of children, regardless of what is, as a person, their rights need to be respected, and that no government officials is empowered to violate those individuals' rights or the children's right, which is why we have a children department, and we have sections of the law that deal with children issue. It's very, very important for us to bring these things to the attention of the general public, because those of us who deal with these matters or read on these matters and understand these matters, to us, we understand what we're talking about. But the general public out there sees these things happening in our society, and they feel like the lawmen and the policemen them and the politicians them are within their rights to be violating our constitution and our rights. And that is no. So my point or my concern is that we need to be sensitizing the general public about these things. And the way we can sensitize them correctly is by always try to read something from the Constitution to point out to them that we are not just saying it out of the top of our head. We are repeating what the Constitution says that they are entitled to as a citizen of the country, and particularly as regards to minors. But I'll just leave that part for right now because I don't want to belabor too much on that. I want to get back to the last point that was on the table right now and hear what else is being said or needs to be said. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Sharon was showing something just now. Mr. Chairman, Sharon is showing something just now.
Yes, Ms. Pitts, can you express?
Go ahead, Ms. Pitts.
I'm just following up as prop. The juvenile offenders up. They believe the families and children up. And we could go on and on. Common law cases are nothing new. UN Convention on the Rights of Children came along and it's so protective now. They have freedom of speech. Well, I may tell mine when they're under 18, despite the convention, because that's subject to our law, that when they reach 18, until then, I still exercise their freedom of speech. I know enough we Afro-Caribbean culture. We want children to speak, but it has to be within certain limits. And the part of the African culture I admire, you that still your mom and your pop picnic. You know, I will say something. Even clients or young clients, they refer to the compol by his first name. I'm like, no, commissioner of police, so and so. Nobody there wrong me, but over the years, you know why I do that? Because when their rights are violated, they're looked after. But even while that, you grow and you raise children. And if you are an extension of the village that raised the child, but you see, that get where the Belize, where you say carnival, post COVID, 25% or 45% children out of school, money per concert. If you pass St. Mary's School, it's a monument to the monumental disaster happening with our children. And when you run out of answers, you reach back and you pull forward Sunday school culture, children in school, literacy rate, learning to cipher the gems. And I'll borrow something from Costa Rica, which might help Belize. What struck me when I was there, School starts at 7 a.m. If you fall behind, sometimes that to my mind is what we have to commit to. Maybe we need to start school symbolically and realistically 1 hour earlier. Parents drop off them picnic early. Picnic gets some nutrition because empty crocus bag can't stand up. Children go to university and utero. University in the womb, according to Sister Cora Joseph Nee Gibson. It all starts with that. And each one teach one, mentor. Aren't we people who long before private tutelage were high-fi sensibilities meant more than a high school thing? Children spend it at elders, grandparents, people in the community. Make we get back to basic, and I'll finish, honestly, I'll finish with this. You see that Gale report that Dr. Martis, Dr. Gale, etc. has done? I read the cover. I don't read the cover to cover. I read the front cover and the back cover. Call me what you want. But the back cover already states it. You're not reading to read nothing more. And I will say this. It occurred to me last week. I was up north and at a gas station I saw one. I took the picture. I don't know where I get to off the back cover. Was there a link? When you think about Jamaica, them mainstream weed, it's like a cultural thing. Like Belizean that drink red Fanta or lemonade. Psychotropic drug. Watch what is happening in Jamaica. They have 3 million people, but they slippery slope. And Belize, we celebrate Emancipation Day, but they free up the weed to put the chains wrong with people's brain and their conscience and their vitality as young men and women. And so that you know what? They're not just under me that better than rum, but you know what? The cocktail is rum and that, and it's cheaper to buy milk that is shop. And the 6-year-old picnic one liga could have made a buy front of paper that one Chinese shop and not say the lady seller, you know. And man look like he willing to get one contract to produce whatever the front of paper. Me
Greg,
not know. And you see
Greg,
people who roll weed, and you go pass and young men they roll up weed
127, no?
when you go in the office after 7,
127 right
so
now.
that hip everybody they have scratch with that. So me must say all, and I must say the rain for our people parade, but they are weeding our people out because you know what? But people who are open up their eyes and the politicians, that thing will keep them poor and uneducated. Now that keep them mellow and weed them out. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you, Ms. Pitts.
Greg, Greg.
Mr. Weir, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's always a pleasure. I'll take my 2 minutes. It's always a pleasure to sit in your company. And again, thanks to you, Ms. Pitts, for another educational, that you educate the public, because a lot of us didn't know all these things, and that the things that are taking place in our country, right?
Mr. Weir,
So I'm glad.
Mr. Weir, excuse
Yes,
me, while you
Mr.
are
Chairman.
here, just take your time to do the closing as well.
It's because we're like nearly there. But like I say, it's always a pleasure to sit in your company, Leonard, Greg. I want
You're
to thank
welcome, sir.
you for for us to still together and bring in truth along with Miss Spitz, compound our truth. She compound it for us because she is the legal mind. Thank you very much, Miss Spitz, to be able to impart knowledge to the layman out there. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Chairman. I'm through.
Mr. Weir, what I had said, I want you to do your little piece and then do the closing.
Okay.
So why don't you put in your part as to what was discussed, follow with the program that you
Thank
recommend.
you. Thank you.
Greg, Mr. Wade, could you take like maybe 2 minutes at the most, sir? Because we're already at the end
Yeah,
of the
that's what I'm
thing,
saying. Yeah, we're
Go ahead, go ahead,
127. You
before
have 2 more
I
minutes.
don't want to take up
No,
more of
it's
your time. I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm just trying to because
No,
of the
I'm
timing.
seeing it. I'm seeing it right
Oh,
here
okay,
too,
okay.
Leonard. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
looking
sir.
at it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Like I say, it's always a pleasure, and I hope that the listening public, take away something from our program, and I like always says, get a copy of the Constitution. How much is I say like $38, Miss Spitz, I think something like that, or Leonard, Greg,
It's online. Anybody could print it
so don't there you go.
and
So
go to a
download it.
library or read it.
Exactly. So my people, there you have it. Know your rights. The people are set out to educate about on rights. Did it happen? No, it never happened. So educate on oneself because it's there. And on that note, I want to thank our viewers and listeners both at home and abroad who tune in to us and have the patience to sit with us. I want to thank them very much. And my people, be mindful. Like I said again when my opening, the COVID is still real, still here, maybe worse than previous. And we are in the hurricane season. Please protect on zinc, protect on if it one little thing to drop off or so, repair it one time because we just in at the hurricane season and there's one lineup again coming this way. So we hope and pray that the good Lord watch over us and protect us because we are still a godly nation. We still have godly people here in this country, right? So protect yourself, my people. Leonard, again, it's a pleasure. Great pleasure, Miss Pitts.
You're welcome,
Pleasure.
sir. Thank you
Good
very
night,
much for
my people. God bless.